Fantasy Rap
with Austin and Ozzy.
Oh, I just love those boys.
Hey everyone, this is Fantasy Rap, and I'm your host Ozzy.
And I'm your co-host Austin.
You can find us on fantasyrap.com. That is fantasywrap.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the follow-up to Week 12. First we'll talk about how we did. I actually went 3-0. While I was one of the top scorers in our 30-plus year league, there were actually four or five teams over 100 points.
Nice.
And 100 points in that league, because it's completely standard.
Yeah.
Is a pretty good. I mean, if you've scored 100 points, you should win every week.
Win. Yeah.
So, I scored 107, and that was with Thielen getting 0.2. So things worked out well. Yeah. In my league that I started playing in a couple of years ago, I put up another 174-point week. Also, like I texted you midway through the Sunday games. Yeah. That I picked up Tank Dell and Kieran Williams.
Yeah. That's an 8-team league, by the way.
But those guys, I mean,
yes, as well as Tank had been doing. Kyron, I get it because he's been on IR. But well as Tank Dell's been doing, the fact that even in an 18 league,
I think
I'm on waiver.
But I think I'm the only person in that league that actually pays attention and makes moves. I mean, people make moves, but you rarely. I've always been that guy that sat there because I had never played in a Yahoo league before. I'd go, oh man, we're gonna have to wait until those guys go on waivers.
Nope.
And all of a sudden I'm like, I'm thinking, Kyron Williams. He's got to be available. Yep, Kyron Williams. He's on my team now.
Yeah.
Gosh, Tank Dell's having another good. I'm going to go check. I mean, I may not play either of those guys, but the depth of my team is just. I mean, it's stupid.
Yep.
And then in the Dynasty League, I won pretty handily.
Yeah.
And I think I was like 4th or 5th in scoring again, which was interesting because I threw up 175 points, and the guy in first place scored more than that. The guy in second place actually lost. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he was tied with Mike the Honcho.
Okay,
and Q had the second or third best score of the week. Now, Q and I play this coming week, and I've got a couple guys on bye, Lamar and Keaton Mitchell, and hopefully he has a couple of guys on bye because otherwise it could be a tough week for me. So how'd you do?
One in the redraft league, the one that I've been just getting absolutely abused in by injuries and close losses, and so had to release a little pent-up frustration in that one, and I sent Sam, who's been in last place all season long, basically, except for last week when I was in last. I beat him, so he's now back down there.
Have you played him more than once?
I believe, actually, I think I swept him. I think I played him like week 2.
Okay.
I think.
Then you have the tiebreaker.
Yep. So, well, like I said, once the consolation bracket starts,
that's right.
Just, it truly isn't like by place. It's just if you lose 2 games in a row, congrats, you're the golden douche.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Now, do you put that out on the internet?
No, but I think we're going to have to start doing that.
Yeah, everyone should. On their Facebook page or whatever, should have to post.
Should be your banner photo or whatever it is.
But I mean, you guys should all post that he
Congratulations,
is.
yeah.
Right. I mean,
that's not a bad idea.
You have to do something like that.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I want to do something like that with all of the leagues that I'm in.
Our rule is, and I can't remember who won it last year, It may have been Sam, to be honest. He's just had a string of bad. He's been really busy in and out of, he was in the Marines and then going to college, and now he re-upped into the Army, and he's going to college down in Virginia, I believe. So he's been, a kid, a second one on the way. So he's been very busy.
If he'd like me to take his team over for a few years until, I'm more than willing to win it for him a couple of times so that his name goes on, although I'll have to throw my name on there.
Yep, yeah, little asterisks. So, but yeah, the rule though is if you win the douche, it has to be out. So I doubt it is, just because he's constantly moving and everything, which is fine. But so that's like our rule. I had it 1 year, and Brittany hated it because it was out nice. at our apartment.
I just think that with social media, it would be a great idea. Get a picture of whoever. Mm-hmm. I don't. Wins.
Yeah,
I don't.
That's why I keep going. Wins.
Are you winning this award? No, you are losing into it. But a picture, and then everybody just plasters it on Facebook or something, and I think we beginning of the year, the one guy in the league, Wyatt, was really pushing for like an actual punishment. Yeah, like we had talked about doing something like that. So that might come about in the next year or two here for the league. So trying not to find anything too degrading and too humiliating, because we're older now. It's not like in high schools. All of us have careers, and a couple of us have kids and stuff. Probably don't want to see their dad or mom, in Brittany's case, wearing a dress on the.
Well, it wouldn't matter for her, but I'm sure Sutton probably doesn't want to see me in a dress out on the golf course. So, yeah,
just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Yeah. So, anyways, won in that league finally. Playing BJ this week, and like I said, if I can squeak out a win against him, that'll put him in a tie for 6th, and maybe he'll lose out. So that'd be kind of funny. Sorry, buddy. Won in our league that we're in together, the Dynasty, by like 26 points. So
I think were you the low victor this week?
Probably
the lowest scoring winner.
Yeah. Well, I had 142 points.
That just doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
When we're all scoring in the 170s, 180s.
I'm just trying to sneak into, at least be playoff bound here.
You inherited, both you and Q inherited.
Mine was better than Isaac.
Yeah,
my core was better than Isaac's, but yes, it was. Yeah, I got thinking this offseason I'm going to be trying to make some moves and see if I can't figure something out. I got to do it in the other league too, because I've got kind of a middling kind of team. I lost on that one to Nick. His team in that one, he was the one who he made that move to get Diggs, who finally came back to life a little bit, even though I had to give him some grief for making that trade, even though he asked for my opinion. And I said, probably not, but it's his team.
Well, and if you feel it makes you better,
well, he's trying to win this year.
Yeah.
He's trying to, buy a championship this year, basically. So, and then maybe even next year too, if we'll see what happens with Diggs.
And Diggs isn't that old.
No.
It's not like Diggs is going to be gone from football. It's a different thing if you make a big trade and you send a lot of capital for a guy like Devontae Adams, who, he's great right now, albeit playing on a pretty crappy team.
Yeah.
But, like if you had done it last year, I'd say, you're getting to a point where his years are numbered.
Yeah.
And you're giving up a lot.
Yeah.
Diggs still probably has a good 4, 5, maybe 6 years left.
What I'm saying is, who knows if it'll be in Buffalo, because we saw, kind of the end in Minnesota, where he's putting up monster numbers yet, but they're not winning. And that, granted, the 2 weeks prior to this past weekend was he put up no numbers essentially. Right. So, if they keep losing, who knows? It's just, there was that kind of weird drama going on beginning of the season. But anyway, so I lost to Nick in that one. Still trying to fight, stay in that 6th spot or, right in the middle there to maybe sneak into playoffs or something. But if it gets to a point, I might have to just tank, start selling pieces. I've got I've got Mahomes as my quarterback in that one. I might try and move him, in the off season for a haul, and just try and get really young, because I've got some older players on that roster too that are
and that's
probably getting towards that could buy somebody a championship next season. And
I mean, that's
I
the
just
thing.
go and get young, and
I mean, C.J. Stroud with the I think it was the sixth pick in the draft,
yep.
and
As I swipe JSN right in front of you.
and C.J. Stroud is outplaying Patrick Mahomes, and all I did was I drafted him.
Yeah.
Now, in order for someone to get Patrick Mahomes, I mean, you're not giving him away for
God, no.
a number 5 or 6 pick in the draft.
Like I said, it'd have to be a haul.
Right.
It's gotta be a
So, I
haul.
mean, there are a lot of times where I sit there and I think, if you can do that, you're almost better off, because as long as those picks work out.
Gotta hit. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
there are guys that I'm, is Bryce Young? Bryce Young?
Yeah, from Carolina.
The
They just
answer?
fired, Frank Reich.
Yeah, I
as
mean,
well.
Bryce Young doesn't look like a quarterback to me.
Yeah, well, that was such a tough place for him to go because they gave up all the capital
yeah.
they've given up.
And DJ
They're
Moore.
stuck in kind of draft hell, kind of,
Yep.
where they don't have many picks coming up. And,
That's not an
they're-
excuse. See San Francisco. What did San Francisco give up to get?
John Lynch is doing some sort of dark magic. I don't know, he's in the dark arts.
Here's
or
my
something.
here's my salary cap.
It's
Now
like
we're
the
going to take a
Rams.
0 off of it.
Yeah.
And here's my actuals.
Yeah, it was like the Rams when they were going out and buying.
Yeah, but they didn't
bringing
have any
everybody.
draft picks for a while.
Yeah.
And although, I mean, neither did San Fran. And San Fran still finds a way to trade for CMC.
True. Yeah.
Craziness.
Yep.
So let's, did you have anything else?
I can think of, like I said, Panthers fired Reich, and then cleaned out, I think, quarterback coach, which was Josh McCown, and then another maybe
I
a
thought he
running
was
back
still
coach
playing.
or something. Yeah, I mean, he might get a phone call. Who knows? I mean, after Dobbs imploding, Minnesota might call him. Jets even yet might give him a call. I don't know.
That was the ugliest or one of the ugliest games I think I've ever watched in football. Now you could say that the defenses played extremely well. The offenses looked horrible.
When I say I literally only watched about 5 minutes, turned it on my phone, sitting there, had something else on the TV, just relaxing. I went, yikes, turned it off. It was
I actually
ugly.
I watched the whole thing.
Oof.
And I was, texting with my buddy from Chicago, the Chicagoland area or Chicago area. Big Bears fan, as you know. And he's like, this is a bad game. And I mean, your team won, so it's not all bad.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
I mean,
But again,
unless
if you're
you're like me
Chicago, do you want to win?
you want to see what your quarterback can do.
Well,
I mean,
that's
that was his third career game-winning drive,
Yeah.
first of the year. So I mean, all I'm looking at is, are they getting better? And I think their defense looks pretty good.
Yeah, Brisker.
Although,
Brisker's he's good. He's
Yeah.
very good.
well, so is who's the guy that had the first pick?
Like I said, I didn't watch. My guess would be
Jalen
Johnson.
Jalen
Johnson,
Johnson,
I think
yeah.
is his last name. Yeah.
But he had one that he played perfectly, I believe, on Hawkinson. And
I saw that one that got deflected up.
No, this was one that he
yeah.
cut. Yeah, well, in the first
was
one,
that one, yeah.
he backed off. They were playing a too high, and he had coverage on the guy in behind. But what he did, he broke off and took the inside guy. But then he saw that the pass was going to go, and he stepped back and made just a beautiful catch.
Gotcha.
But then he cut in front of Hawkinson later, and it hit him in both hands.
Yeah.
And they were at about probably the 20-yard line of Minnesota.
Yep.
And he must have been already thinking TD because that ball just went boop to the ground. And I mean, you got to, and apparently it happened last week, the same type of thing where he had a pick six against Detroit and he dropped it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to make those plays because he made the great play.
Yeah.
You got to make the plays that you should make every single
Yeah, you
time.
got to make the routine plays. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our injuries, and there's not a big list. We'll start with DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Head injury in protocol, which meant that PJ Walker.
Correct. Yeah, he came in. I think he got beat up too, from what I saw. He came in and played bad, because that was Browns. Who were they playing again?
Can't even think of it, but they were just they looked bad.
Yeah.
But I didn't play my kicker, Hopkins, because I didn't think they'd move the ball well.
Yeah, he's the number one kicker in fantasy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I actually dropped him in favor of Sanders from Miami.
Yeah.
Because obviously with either DTR or PJ Walker running the show, he's not going to, I mean, they might be able to get close enough and maybe he can rack up because we get yardage,
Yeah, as do we in one of ours, or
so
maybe
he
more
just
than
can
one.
compile 5 field goals for
100
yards,
Right.
But
yeah, I mean it's a value as long as it's keeping them in the game and they don't start going for 2-point conversions or going on 4th down.
Yep.
My other kicker is
it's
Wei,
bugging me. I got to look up and see.
Young Wei Koo,
Yep.
and they did that early on.
Mm-hmm.
They had a 52-yard field goal or something.
Denver. That's when
Okay.
they played Denver. Yeah.
They had like a 52-yard field goal, and they went for it on 4th and 4. They got the first down. They ended up scoring a touchdown, I think, so they only got 1 point for my kicker.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there going, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
You've got a kicker for a reason, and one of the better kickers in Young Wei Koo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, go out and get PJ Walker if you're
Desperate.
completely desperate.
Yeah.
Next up is Amari Cooper, who injured his ribs and is week to week.
Negative because he's on my roster. In my redraft, they said MRIs came back negative, so nothing broke in.
Right.
Just got banged up. So.
Yep. So it's a matter of, how much
If he
pain you
wants to
can
play.
how much pain you can sustain with that offense.
Yeah. Well, that one, I mean, Cleveland was, they're playing Denver, who has,
Played better.
played a lot better. All of a sudden, I think technically they're in the hunt for
Yeah,
playoffs
yeah.
right now. So, which is crazy after watching them get pounded.
They're in the same hunt as the Packers.
True.
I mean, different
Trajectory.
conference. No. I mean, both of them are headed.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them are like, well, the Packers are the next one in,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Denver is like the second to next one in
Yeah, that
in
makes
the
sense.
AFC.
Yeah, but that was, like I said, report came out before the game from, granted it was like a Yahoo writer, because I have Jerome Ford as well. I was, with Cooper and Ford. Well, Ford was just when Chubb went down, I went immediately and
Right.
added him. That wasn't a draft thing or speculative ad. That was just, oh shit, Nick Chubb just blew up his knee, get the next guy. But they came out and apparently from Denver, they were saying, or not Denver, Browns, they're saying that expect a heavy workload from Jerome Ford and then, Kareem Hunt coming in and mixing in as well. And the first 3-4 drives, they were letting DTR throw, which, you say, we have a confidence in you, go out and show us, and then all of a sudden that wasn't working. They're 3 and out and, quick offensive drives, which puts a lot of stress on the defense. And then finally in the 4th or 5th series, they hand the ball off to Jerome Ford and he rips like a 20-yarder. And then the next one rips a decent chunk, and he's gaining chunk plays, and then they go away from it, or they bring in Kareem Hunt, Kareem Hunt's fine, but Jerome Ford is that guy that can have those big, huge, those chunk plays or breaks one and really opens up a game for you. And it was one of those, like I've said a million times, finally Derrick Henry, not a lot of yardage, but 2 touchdowns.
Well, and we talked about Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
And the proper utilization of Saquon Barkley last week.
Every single play, just give him the ball.
But then this week they completely deviated from that. I had chosen him as
Your start.
our stud, or my stud, and he gets next to nothing because, although it was funny because on the first drive, I think they handed it to him 3 times and they were moving the ball and then they just completely got away from it.
Yeah. So, like I said, just
And
with
it's
the
not like it
Browns,
was. It's not like it was a game that was out of hand.
Yeah.
I mean, what was the final score? 10-7?
Something like that. Yeah.
14-7? I don't remember if they scored 2 touchdowns or 1.
I know DeVito threw 1, but yeah.
I think it ended up like 10-7.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're in the game and your best,
and you're not giving
your best play.
Right,
you know.
right. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
Next up, we've got Demario Douglas. Another one with head contact, probably in protocol.
No, you got like clotheslined. I saw the replay of that, and he got like clotheslined right across, like right here, and he did one of those where the arms kind of came up for a second,
Gotcha.
So, so he'll probably miss at least a week because I think that's pretty much been standard this whole season too.
But there have been 3 or 4 people who have come back. I mean, one guy, and I didn't write it down because he was evaluated for a concussion and came back in.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry.
I'm right there with you. I can picture it, but I can't remember who it was.
Right.
I do remember that. Yeah.
So, I mean, and there was, I think didn't Purdy have a concussion and pass in the same week?
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, there are guys that are passing it that quickly, but it's only a small handful. It's not like half the guys or even a third or a quarter of the guys. It's like maybe 5%, but they're coming through more quickly.
Yeah.
Then we've got Rashid Shaheed, thigh contusion, day to day, which could be bad. Because if he doesn't suit up, and Chris Olave with the concussion and in protocol and probably out this week, I mean, they were talking about a couple of guys that I have never heard of before. So, I mean, it would be like someone saying, hey, Dontavian Wicks from the Packers. Who?
Yeah.
Oh, no, Malik Heath. Who?
Yeah.
So, they're on to, they're well down the list of receivers.
Yeah, if Shaheed and Olave both miss next week, I think Taysom Hill's probably going to be my start at wide receiver, running back, and tight end.
I don't think he's a wide receiver.
No, but
but I'd play him at tight end, running back, and quarterback maybe.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Calvin Austin III, day to day with an ankle injury. Didn't really pay much attention to that one.
No. Pittsburgh, he gets on the field. There's a little hype around him in the preseason because I think he had like a big touchdown or like 2 big plays. He's fast, smaller guy.
Yeah. And with the way that I think it was Deontay Johnson.
Oh, yeah. That was bad. Stood there and watched a fumble roll at his feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't first of all, didn't move on the play. Then stood there after the fumble occurred, didn't go after the ball, didn't go after the guy to make the tackle.
Yeah, I think when the guy picked the ball up and he started running, he just kind of went he was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that coaching staff won't be very happy with him. So maybe Calvin Austin sees a little more time when, if he gets back in there.
A good improvement from Pittsburgh, first week away, from underneath the thumb of Matt Canada. Their first 400-yard total, or 400 yards of offense totals for I don't even know how long this season.
It was a long time.
It was, I think, probably at least this season.
Oh, it was more than this season.
Yeah.
22 weeks maybe.
Rough. But yeah, so they came out. I mean, Freiermuth had a really nice game. I'm actually surprised he's not in the studs because he didn't have a lot of yardage though. I thought he did have a lot of yardage. Yeah, but I thought he had like 100 yards receiving or something like that.
Maybe.
But, I mean, yeah. So, but yeah, he had a good game. Najee got in the end zone.
Remember though, it wasn't. This is not based on PPR.
That's true.
Because your guy can go out and have 10 catches, and that means nothing.
That means nothing. Correct. Yes. So, but yeah, I mean, so. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Deontay, and I mean, he's had since Big Ben retired, he's had a rough go. No touchdowns, and had popped the week against Green Bay, got in the end zone, I believe, and had a decent game. Which was for fantasy was nice, but he's just been having.
I didn't know. Maybe
offense.
I thought maybe he and Chase Claypool, when they were both on the team together, were rooming together, and Chase taught him how to play.
He's been a healthy scratch. So I think he's on deep in my roster on the one dynasty league.
So is Alan Lazard.
Yeah, paying him like $12 million this year for him to not pay.
Yeah. Which is great for the Packers because we get a fourth round compensatory pick for him.
Nice.
Because it was such a high paying contract.
Yeah.
So moving on to our studs, we've got Josh Allen. Plus 21.9. He was 29 of 51 for 339 yards, 2 touchdowns and interception, 9 rushes, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
There it is.
And that didn't win him the game.
Yeah, I keep seeing it. They had adjusted the rules in overtime because of Josh Allen. Or there's a game where they tweaked something with overtime.
Okay.
And now since they did that, he's 0-5.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 0-5, I believe. Since that in overtime. So rough.
Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah, very rough.
And 2 touchdowns thrown in the pick. Obviously, he's always going to have probably at least one.
Yeah.
So
he can't get past that right now.
The rushing obviously is the big thing that you like to see for him, for the touchdowns.
Right.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Kyron Williams, plus 19.99. 6 of 6 catches on 6 targets, 61 yards, 2 touchdowns, 16 rushes, 143 yards.
Dang.
He was on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, they were bringing in Royce Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
And Freeman had a good game.
Yeah, he had a decent game too.
He's going to make our waiver wire mainly because, he came up with like 60 plus yards of offense.
I think he had a touchdown as well.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of a explosion of offense.
Well, and the funny thing is, Puka and Kupp had next to nothing.
Yep.
Higbee had two touchdowns.
Stafford threw the 4 because he had the 2 throwing to Kyron
right.
as well. So, yeah, it was interesting. I actually, like Kupp was out there. I flipped to the game on Red Zone, and I saw Cooper Kupp, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know he was going to play this week.
Yeah,
he was out there. So, Kyron, my start of the week. So, he was, like I said, well, the reason why I did it was thinking Kupp was probably going to be out this week. And like I said, when I selected him, we saw what he was doing at the beginning of the year, and he literally picked up where he left.
Right.
Just being a monster. 16 rushes for 143 yards. That's
you're getting
ripping
almost,
them, and then the
almost
2 touchdowns.
9 a carry. Right at just about 9 a carry.
So
then we have my pick for quarterback, C.J. Stroud, who continues to put up. And they're not such gaudy numbers. It's just that he keeps on playing so well, even against
efficient
good teams. He was plus 15 points. He was 26 of 36 for 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 rushes, 47 yards, and another touchdown.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm playing against him this week, so I have to hope that he doesn't do quite that well, although I'm also playing him in our Dynasty League. So,
yeah. Well, Tank Dell should be on that list as well. Refs negated I can't remember how far that was. 50-something yard on a illegal shift, and on the replay, it wasn't. Or at least it didn't look like it was, so that took away that yardage, and then Stroud just straight up, I can't remember, I think he overthrew him on it would have been like a 78-yard touchdown or something like that. He just missed him on. So Tank Dell, 130-something yards and a touchdown out of that stat line, and he had a
then C.J. Stroud would have had a monster game.
Yeah, another over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, that would have been insane.
Yep.
But like I said, he's been efficient. Only 2 or 3, 4 picks. He's got less than 5 picks, doesn't he?
I'm not sure,
because it was like the whole thing. It was like week 9 before he'd thrown an interception or something, and then he had like the next week threw like 2.
Yeah, I think he had 2 or 3 turnovers in each of the last 2 weeks prior to this week.
So only a handful of picks. Yeah, he's just Houston.
Yeah,
They
they're
really
in a
like
position
that.
where they
They're-
can actually make the playoffs.
Yeah, and they're playing really well. D'Amico Ryans he's so far been the right. Finally, they make a good decision at coach, and those guys are wanting to play for him. And they made some really nice moves in the draft, getting trading up to get Stroud, and then coming back in to get Will Anderson on the defense. So yeah, they're. I think it's nice when Houston plays well. It's good for the league.
Yeah. You're talking about a bad call in that game or whatever.
Yeah.
I want to say it was the Bears-Vikings game last night, and I watched a couple. I mean, it was like the first series or so, and already there were 2 horrible calls by the refs, and I was thinking to myself, how is it that you guys can make? I mean, they brought in whoever, it wasn't Steratore, and it wasn't Blandino, and I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
But the guy came on, he's like, that's the wrong call. On both of them. And I'm just like,
how does that guy not?
How
is he not able to get a hold of who?
Because he's not an official anymore.
Well, but I think maybe you and I had talked about, not on this, but just, watching, same thing. How is there not like one person for each game that's in New York or wherever they bring these guys in through that can, look at it, and they go to the refs and go, you might want to take another look at that.
Yeah, but they can't.
Quick. Yeah,
I don't think they can on some of this stuff. I mean, it's a judgment call, and you just sit there. Oh, it was the defender. Number 6 for the Bears, that the guy on this play, he got pulled out of bounds, and the guy had his hand on his face mask, completely snapped the base of the face mask.
He took his helmet off.
So he
and
took
they
his
called him
helmet
for
off.
taunting. Yes,
Yeah,
I saw that. I saw the clip.
And I'm watching as this, and I watched that after, and I'm like, well, had you seen the entire play, you would have noticed, or had you gone up to him and said, "Why did you take your helmet off?" Because they were sitting there.
He was
holding on
and
to
you
it.
could see it looked like an old timey jouster knight where the whole thing.
It looks
comes
like
up.
our hockey helmets.
Well,
The face shield lifts up, and then you clip it on,
like I said,
and the whole thing
bent.
comes up.
Yeah.
But to make that call, at least know what you're talking about first.
Well, how's this? Angel Hernandez still has a job as an ump and an official at MLB.
We won't even get into some of that, because I've seen some of the calls on balls and strikes, and you just sit there and you go, I would have gotten thrown out too.
Yeah.
Because you show me a ball player that doesn't pretty much know the strike zone.
Especially your own strike zone.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, I will leave it at that. Angel Hernandez still has a job as an official in the MLB.
So then we've got Jalen Hurts, plus 13.9. He was 18 of 31, not overly efficient. In fact, he looked horrible in the first half. And again, weather. That was
a nasty game.
Another back-to-back bad games that Philadelphia has played in. And Hurts puts up 18 of 31, which isn't good. 200 and...
It's like just 200.
200 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 14 rushes, 65 yards, and 2 more touchdowns.
Yeah.
He accounted for 5 touchdowns.
That's what he was doing last year, too.
Yeah.
Obviously the 18 or 31, not efficient, but still 3 touchdowns.
But A.J. Brown was pretty much non-existent.
Yeah. He caught a touchdown, but probably the yardage wasn't there. Only 200 passing yards, so yeah.
Right.
But,
they were
14
forcing
carries.
the ball to him to try and get him involved.
Yeah.
And it just, early on, it wasn't working because the weather was horrible. So, next up, we've got, this has got to be wrong, because there's no way that we would have a Packer quarterback on our Jordan Love, plus 13.16. He was 22 of 32 for 264 5 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 rushes for 39 yards. Impressive game. Another impressive game.
Yeah, I think we talked about that on Friday.
Yep. I didn't think he was going to make studs.
No, but I mean, I picked him up, like I talked about in my redraft, and he's only, I think this week he's projected at like 13 points because I think we're playing Kansas City.
Yeah.
And Kansas City, who looked, whatever the Raiders have against Kansas City that lets them play, out of their range of, ability. I don't know what it is, but, I had Kansas City's defense this week. I'm like, at least I should, because you start out with 10 points once the game starts. I'll get at least 10 points. If not, I'll get lucky. Maybe they'll, pick six or fumble, a couple sacks. Nope. Josh Jacobs rips that huge touchdown. Looked like last year, Josh Jacobs, which was, nice to see that he still can do it. But, yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, so. But, yeah, I had Jordan Love, and, like I said, we talked about it. He looked good. Still had some moments where you're like, not good. But overall, that was again, good game for, Green Bay. Like I said, we, as being fans who are probably a little more realistic than your average Packer, or just any team fan that you would have out there,
right,
that are like, oh, we got to keep winning and loving. He's not the guy. It's like, well, you had to know coming into this year it wasn't going to be great. But the final score didn't indicate it, but to put the smack down on the Lions.
Yeah. On an 8-2 team.
Yeah. Felt, especially, it's Thanksgiving, and say what you want about the moon phase.
It was the waxing gibbous.
Yeah, yep.
It was the waxing gibbous. Anybody would have beaten them this week.
Yeah. Well, and what was nice with Love is he was spreading it around too. It wasn't just Dobbs and Watson.
It was Malik Heath.
Heath.
It would have been Dontavian Wicks, but he was out with the concussion, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right. And then Kraft had that touchdown. Kraft had that touchdown. Like I said, Jaden Reed, only 34 or 43. Can't remember.
It was 34.
It's 34. Like I said, didn't seem like it was that low, but he was spreading it around, and which was nice to see. He's not just staring down Watson and Dobbs. So
yeah. Let's move on to our duds. First, speaking of Dobbs, Josh Dobbs, minus 15.66. 22 of 32, 185 yards, a touchdown, 4 interceptions, 2 rushes, 11 yards.
Woof.
And
yikes.
I'm not sure. Did he have a fumble in addition? He may have had a fumble in addition. It was just bad.
I watched about 5 minutes of that, and I just couldn't. I had to turn it off.
It was bad because the majority, I think at least 2 of the picks were on passes to Addison. Yeah.
There's that deflection off Hawkinson.
Yep.
Which, that's not really Dobbs' fault, but...
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the one he threw off of Addison's hands that bounced up in the air, he threw an absolute piss missile at Addison. Mm-hmm. And Addison was, I don't remember if it was, he was just coming out from behind a player, and he had his hands up. It hit him square in the hands, but that thing hit him and was gone in no time.
Yeah.
You had absolutely no possibility. Unless you had just stuck your hands in the stickum, you weren't making that catch.
Yeah. Only 185 yards on 22 completions. That's a lot of short throws, and then obviously the 10 incompletions. But and Dobbs.
Well, actually, he only had 6 incompletions. Yes. He had 4 completions to the other team.
Yeah. So, don't get me wrong. Loved when he was playing out of his mind. Everybody, like I said, good for football. It is. It's something like that. It's exciting. It makes people talk about the game and be, you get more fans in, and it's, people invested and all this. But there's also a reason that he's been a backup for multiple teams.
Right.
And this showed why, because the floor is bad, really bad. So, and they were talking to O'Connell, the head coach, after the game, and, of course, the one guy, is there going to be a quarterback change? is there any quarterback controversy? And O'Connell actually did say, he goes, well, we got, Jaron Hall, their rookie. He's back cleared from his concussion. And then he said they also had, they've got Nick Mullins as well.
Yeah.
So he goes, from O'Connell said they'll have to search the inventory of offensive snaps of Dobbs and make a decision based off of what they see in film and stuff like that.
Well,
so
and you think about it. I mean, it could have been the pressure of a Monday night game. It could have been, all kinds of different things. He made an almost
bit of that Kirk Cousins primetime
yeah
anti-magic.
Yeah. It could have been
hanging around the facility.
Might have, it might just be a Minnesota thing.
Yeah. I will say though, being a Packers fan, watching that game when Brisker had his interception, he I think he was that like midfield or something like that, or into the end zone. Of course, everybody's running. They're doing a celebration, and he was doing the skull, the clap, that stupid clap they do right at the fans. That was pretty funny.
Gotcha.
So
should have gotten a taunting.
Little payback for that Randy Moss fake moon.
Yeah,
years ago.
Yep. Next up, we've got Mac Jones, who didn't finish the game. He was minus 10.48. He was 12 of 21 for 89 yards and 2 interceptions. He was bad. Yeah,
and
Bailey Zappi wasn't much better.
Yeah, New England's got. I think there's going to be some big changes in New England this season. Like Belichick gone. That means probably Patricia gone. Bill O'Brien even, unless Robert Kraft likes him and promotes him.
Can't see it happening.
But yeah,
I would just clean house.
I think that's what they're going to do.
Let whoever you hire bring in. Well, Belichick is the GM also.
Yes, yeah.
So they'll probably hire a GM, is what I would think, and then let the GM do the hiring of the head coach, and the head coach bring in whoever he wants.
You think of Harbaugh coming out of Michigan to coach New England.
I don't like him. I do not like him.
I don't think anybody really likes him. Well, he just got busted for sign stealing and cheating. He fits right in New England.
That's true. Next up, we've got Adam Thielen. He was a disappointment, minus 9.11, which means he was supposed to score 0.9.
10 points.
3-1?
Yeah.
He was 1 catch on 3 targets for 2 yards. And you mentioned it, 4 weeks or so ago, that, they were going with a different offensive coordinator or a different way of what, I don't remember what it was, but things were changing.
I think Reich had given up play calling. It was something like he had given it up and then taken it back. It was something they were changing who was going to be the coordinator or calling plays. And I said, I remember that could be a really bad thing for Thielen, and it has been.
And maybe now with Reich gone, that could turn back around. I mean, they looked halfway decent when Thielen was involved.
Yeah.
Granted, he's 75 years old.
True. Early in the season, there was a stretch there where he was a top 5 fantasy receiver.
Yeah.
Because he was getting 15 targets a game.
Yeah.
And it's one of those too. It's, Miles Sanders has been hurt / bad most of the season. They paid a decent chunk of money for him to come in. That's the thing with Carolina, like I said, no picks, and they've got a lot of money tied up in a couple players. So they're going to be bottom of the league for a little bit.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, at least after this year, finishing in last place and giving that pick away, maybe next year they can have their own first pick. I mean, the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah, maybe. So
who knows?
Yeah.
Next up, we've got, and I find this interesting because we had him in our love 'em, flip 'em, leave 'em segment, and we decided we were going to leave him, and it was James Conner, minus 7.7. 4 catches on 5 targets for 5 yards, 6 rushes for 27 yards. I don't know how you catch 4 balls for 5 yards.
Well, that was Alvin Kamara earlier this season caught like 13 catches for 40-something yards. Like it was the most amount of receptions for the least amount of yards in NFL history.
Yeah, but 4 catches
yeah.
and 5 yards. I mean, you're averaging 4.25 yards per catch. That's pretty bad.
I mean, 6
1
rushes
1/4.
for 27 yards. That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
Yards per carry. But the thing with Arizona is, especially for the running backs, is the end of their season schedule is pretty brutal. So people have been James Conner in their IR, because he was on IR for most of the season. Or at least was it only 4 weeks, or did it end up being like 6
I
or
thought it was
something like
more
that?
than 4, but
yeah. So hoping he come back. He came back because last season, end of the season, he was maybe not a league winner, but definitely.
Oh, he was good.
He was very consistent. At scoring good points, or a nice amount of points. But that's because Kyler had gotten hurt, and then Kyler was last game of the year, wasn't it, for them? I can't remember. There was something that happened.
That's a whole year.
Yeah, I know. There's something where James Conner was getting everything. Kind of like what we're hoping that Saquon.
Right.
We're assuming that Saquon should be, to where James Conner got everything, so he was very good on a huge workload. So you limit his workload, and he's not as obviously not as good. But they've got a pretty rough schedule for opposing defenses coming up. So
I have enough trouble remembering what I had for breakfast. So next up, we've got Tua, and he was minus 7.65 points, 21 of 30 passing for 234 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 2 rushes for 1 yard. Not good.
No. Who did they play again?
Miami played against the Jets?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
On Friday.
Correct. Yes. Now that was at 2:00.
Yeah.
So I was at work, and all of a sudden I got like an alert that Jalen Waddle had a big play or something. It was like a 20-yard reception.
Yeah.
I was like, shoot. Yeah. So yeah, that's the Jets defense is very good.
They were okay.
Yeah. They can play.
Sauce looked.
Well, it's Tyreek Hill.
Pedestrian.
It's Tyreek Hill.
When he was playing on Tyreek Hill, and when he was playing on, I think did he only cover Tyreek? I don't think so.
I don't know.
I think he was on Waddle, and Waddle made him look bad.
Yeah, I don't know. But even if he was on Tyreek, like Tyreek would make prime Darrelle Revis and Ed Reed look silly.
He'd make primetime look bad.
Yeah, yeah. I think primetime might have been the only one who might have been able to keep up with him speed wise, but. That's just Tyreek Hill is truly once. I don't think we'll ever see anybody like that.
No.
No. Just crazy break.
The acceleration.
Yeah, it's the acceleration.
It's not the. He's got breakaway speed, but it's how quickly he moves.
It's how fast he can get to that. That top
speed. But he'll be standing there and he'll have a juke move, and all of a sudden he's doing 25 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem like a possibility for a human being to do that type of thing. And yet he does it all the time.
Yeah.
Moving on to our waiver wire. So if he's available, Tyler Higbee, very well used.
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns. He can be pretty inconsistent. I think it depends 2 points or it's.
Well, I think it depends on Puka and Cooper too.
Yeah, very much so.
Those two were, both questionable coming in. I don't know if either of them carried a designation into the actual game, but they were questionable during the week. And if they're getting all the coverage and you've got a running back breaking it off, guess who's available?
True.
Tyler Higbee.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers. I know you like Zay Flowers.
Yeah, he started out good. If I remember right, started out good. He's been quiet, a little bit as of late, kind of disappointing. So, he caught the touchdown. Like I said, I was... I can't remember if I swapped him out last second or not, but I
swapped it out.
Yeah, OBJ. Because the passing volume has to go somewhere without Mark Andrews, and he likely had a decent game.
Yeah.
Who I was, on the, more of the fade side of Isaiah Likely, but it has to go somewhere. And Flowers is their most, their most dynamic, explosive. I mean, he's a rookie,
Energetic.
yes, but he's that. I mean, OBJ is not going to be breaking, huge, catch and runs.
About the only thing he's going to break is his hip.
Exactly. And Rashad Bateman has been a non-factor, which is sad because when he was at Minnesota, he's trust me, I had to watch a lot of Rashad Bateman because of Brittany, but
Sorry.
He was fun to watch at Minnesota. He's very good, and and he had that stretch of games. I think it was his rookie year, 2 years ago, where he was very, very good. Very good. And
I got good value trading him.
Yeah, well, his thing too has been injuries as well. He just can't stay on the field. So
right.
And then kind of the emergence of Keaton Mitchell. Last couple of weeks. So I like Zay Flowers as well. I mean, like I said, that it's got to go somewhere.
Right.
And if they're smart, it'll go to him.
Yep. Next up, I've got Christian Watson. Oh, Christian Watson.
Yeah.
Not Christian McCaffrey.
That would be insane. That would be insane.
He might be available on my 18th. No. Christian Watson finally started looking like the Christian Watson that the Packer fans expected. I mean, he had, the last 6 games of last year were monstrous.
Yeah.
And expectations were extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
And then he couldn't stay on the field. It seemed like every single route he ran, he would have a hangnail and have to come off.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that was my one worry of coming into the season with him from a fantasy perspective, not just being a Packers fan, but a fantasy perspective was he had this, that huge run where he was just scoring touchdowns,
right.
Yeah. And, it's like, can he? I mean, he's got the physical, is the size and the speed. I mean, the dude is, his profile is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So he
10
has
10
the
on the
tools.
RAS.
Yeah, he has the tools to do it, but he also ties in. He's not I don't think, not yet anyways. Hopefully he can get there, but he's not yet a wide receiver that can elevate. Like if Jordan Love is not playing very well, Watson gets, he's downgraded essentially because of that. He's not a receiver that can say, all right,
I'm
look
carrying
to me,
the team.
I'll make you look good. Let's do this. Like he's not there yet, but
right.
Yeah, I mean,
but
yeah.
You look at, there are not a large number of receivers that through years 1 and 2 come out and are studs.
Mm-hmm.
They just aren't. Devontae Adams. People were screaming about him.
Pounding the table to get rid of him because he couldn't hold on or catch the ball.
Right. So maybe it takes a while,
mm-hmm.
and the number of games that are played versus the college game.
Mm-hmm.
Just the difference in plays, the difference in ability versus who you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a guy with a 10 RAS in college you're a stud.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what.
You're elite in college.
Right. I mean, there's no one that's going to cover you, blah, blah, blah. Now you get to the pros. Well, you haven't been playing against those guys in the SEC or in the, whatever that are capable.
Or against 5, 6, 7-year vets who
right.
are locked down. You're not playing against a fully healthy Jalen Ramsey or Sauce or Stephon Gilmore in his prime. Yeah. So
yeah. So now that it's happening, it takes a while
mm-hmm.
for them to understand the nuances of the position. I mean, like you said, you used to talk about Devontae dropping the ball. Now Devontae has some of the surest hands and the best non-move until the ball is actually in his hands
mm-hmm.
to even tip people off. Who says that Christian Watson won't get there in years 3 or 4?
Yeah, I've got no problem admitting I was completely wrong.
Yeah,
at the time I was right. But
you were.
Now, yes, that's exactly what you're getting at. Is that now? Yes, I'm so glad they didn't get rid of it.
Right. And I think most of of the receivers. I mean, outside of a Jamar Chase or a JJ, there are not a lot of receivers that come out year one and are studs, or even year two that are studs. It takes it generally.
Yes. You always have a couple, like my boy Tank Dell.
Yeah.
Rookie who's been, he missed some time with I can't remember if it was a concussion or something, but missed a game or two and then a bye week in there. So, he's been very good. Him and CJ Stroud have that great connection. You know, you get those guys that there's at least a couple of, maybe depends on the rookie, that draft class, but you get a couple of them that do pop rookie year. Right. But then yes, usually
Jordan Addison is having a good year, but he's not an all-out stud yet.
He was.
Do we think
Kirk got
right? Do we think he can be? Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Chris Olave, started well.
Yep.
But all of this stuff plays into, are they going to be studs years 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Who knows?
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Royce Freeman. We talked a little bit about him getting some work. with Kyron Williams back.
Yeah.
And if you're in need of, it depends on how deep we're talking. In an 8-team league, no. In a 10-team league, probably not. In a 12 to 16 team league,
I've looked at him a couple times.
Yeah.
In that redraft, especially when Kyron was out and they brought him in, and then obviously Henderson had like this 2 good games, and then he got released because they couldn't keep swapping him back and forth between the practice squad and active roster. So in the 12-team league, you kind of keep an eye on him, right? Especially, God forbid, but if Kyron were to go down again, then absolutely, you'd be running. I think there'd be a couple of teams running to the waiver wire, right? To scoop him up. So, yeah. And
my last one is Samaje Perine.
He's been playing better, getting more opportunity the last couple of weeks.
Maybe got a touchdown this week.
Yeah, which sucks because I like Javonte Williams. Obviously, his rookie year, he was. I think the only thing truly holding him back was that Melvin Gordon was still there and getting 55% of the workload, right? And then obviously that terrible knee injury that he had. But Perine, they brought him in for a reason, because they weren't sure if Javonte was going to be good to go, to start the season. Right. And kind of miraculously he was.
And McLaughlin was getting a lot of the carries. McLaughlin has really been backed down from where he was. It's almost like Perine's getting a lot more time on the field than McLaughlin is.
Yeah, well, Perine, that was kind of the thing in Cincinnati. He was used on third downs and longer yardage situations for that safety valve. Joe Mixon's he's a well enough pass catching back, but Perine's really good at that. So that could be like I said, Denver's playing a lot better than they were to start the season. So, they are. They're trying to figure it out and get better and better. And, if they got to phase out McLaughlin and bring in Perine, like I said, they brought him in for a reason. They believe in, that he's still got, he's been in the league for a little bit, but they believe he's got some juice and, can offer something to that offense. And he's been showing it.
Yep.
So,
we were talking about, the game last night. And it was funny because the Bears was at the opening kickoff and went all the way down the field and missed a field goal.
Nice.
Then Minnesota went 3 and out, punted it away, and the quarter ended with Chicago still driving. Wow. So Minnesota had the ball for all of about a minute or so in the first quarter.
Wow. Yeah.
So, all of a sudden the quarter ended, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, Minnesota has touched the ball 1 time for 3 plays, and the Bears still have the ball. Very weird.
That was crazy.
Moving on to our loser of the week. Did you have anyone?
Not that
You aren't doing the research, are you?
Oh, I will say Brittany was kind of nervous last night because she was up. She was playing Nick, who we had guest on, before the season. Long time, one of my best friends, longtime friend. So
long time listener, first time caller.
Yep, I gotta pile on him because Brittany was a little nervous in case you had one of those random T.J. Hawkinson explosions. But she would just like to say, "Suck it," So,
ooh,
yeah.
Wow, there you have it, Nick. Suck it.
Yeah.
So I had a loser of the week. My 8-team league, someone played Kenneth Walker III in their flex position.
Was he out this week?
He was out this week.
Nice.
He was out before the game and left the likes of Bijan Robinson, Debo, and Zay Flowers on the bench.
Wow.
Why?
I know it's an 8-team league, but why? I mean, granted, and Bijan, had been being misutilized by Arthur Smith.
Yep.
But I don't get how you can leave. I don't know.
It's probably, and this is, I try not to judge people based on who they pick because, frankly, it's a crapshoot sometimes.
Oh yeah.
So someone played Goff, expecting them to just beat the snot out of the Packers, and left Josh Allen and his 50 points.
See that one though
on the bench. Right. That's what I'm saying. God. They were playing against Philadelphia, who one would think would have held Josh Allen to much fewer points.
Yeah.
And that Goff would have gone off against
Green
Bay. And that's why I said you can't judge someone for trying to make the right, and I would never consider them the loser of the week.
No.
It's one of those, you took 20 points and you could have had 50 out of that one position. And it just, that'll happen. I mean, that happens every time we play. So, but yeah, when you've got Kenneth Walker on your active roster,
who's been ruled out,
and you have those three guys to choose from. They may have had others, but those are the three. I looked at the team and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I have to remind myself that that's your 8-team league. Because I'm like, Kenneth Walker, and they left Bijan and Debo. Zay Flowers, like I said, had been good.
Right.
A little less, and then had the nice week this week. But Bijan and Debo are both on the bench, and I'm like, I had to go, oh yeah, that's right. It's an 8-team league.
Yeah.
Where rosters are a little look a lot better than
where I sit CeeDee Lamb and still luckily win the game when he went off for 48 points.
Yeah.
But when you've got the problems that I've got with trying to decide who to play.
Well, and at that time too, because that was that first week that CD blew. So the process was right.
Yeah.
That was the same when I had DeAndre Hopkins on my bench that first game with Levis, and Vrabel had come out and said that Levis and Malik Willis were going to play.
Then all of a sudden, touchdown.
There's no way in hell you would, unless you absolutely had zero choice to play DeAndre Hopkins. So the process was right, but the outcome just happened to be wrong.
And that's where the process was right, where you would possibly play Goff instead of Allen. It just didn't work out. Allen is the top scoring quarterback in fantasy football for a reason.
Yeah.
Even when they're losing, he's still putting up unbelievable numbers. Yeah. And the fact that Philadelphia's defense played as poorly as they did and gave up the number of points in the rain, one would have guessed that was going to be
a defensive, more of a defensive battle.
Right.
Yeah.
And it turned into a high scoring back and forth game.
Yeah.
So, well, that's all we've got for this week. Hope you listen in. Hope you watch the YouTube video cast. Otherwise, I am Ozzy.
And I'm Austin.
Have a great week.
See ya.